I want to welcome you back to GLBC Connections today. I want to start today by talking about a science fiction book that I read a number of years ago. We were traveling, and the book won a lot of awards, and so I picked it up on sale and thought I would read it and see what all the hype was about. It's a book of space travel and other things that most people don't find interesting. It's my sort of book, but most people don't really care for it. But the interesting thing about the book was I didn't know what to expect. I'd never read the author before. And the book is about space travel, but it does not have a happy ending. Nearly everybody dies, and even the people that don't die are not happy at the end of it, and they've really lost everything. And I thought, boy, this book is grim and really has an unhappy ending. And the reason I mention that is because today we're going to look at Psalm 49. And Psalm 49 is actually pretty grim. And in the process of its being grim, it teaches something powerful and profound. And it also has, I think, a really subtle moment in it that is really important for us to see. So first I want to see its grimness, and then we'll come back and see how it really turns in the middle in a way that we don't notice at first. So Psalm 49 is a wisdom psalm, and you catch it in the first four verses. It says that's what it is. It says it's full of proverbs. Wisdom psalms are meant to point out what life is like, and if you've been around life for very long, as I'm getting to the point where I've seen a lot of life, you know that life indeed can be grim, and in fact this psalm merely points it out. And so in verse 5 we pick it up, and it says, "Why should I fear when trouble comes, when enemies surround me? They trust in their wealth and boast of great riches, that they cannot redeem themselves from death by paying a ransom to God. Redemption does not come so easily, for no one can ever pay enough to live forever and never see the grave." So it's really a psalm about the hopelessness of life and the coming death of really every person. And it continues like this, and I think this is actually really helpful and true. "Those who are wise must finally die, just like the foolish and senseless, leaving all their wealth behind. The grave is their eternal home, where they will stay forever." Boy, there's some grim words, aren't they? The grave is their eternal home. They may name their estates after themselves, but their fame will not last. They will die just like animals. And this is the fate of fools, though they are remembered as being wise. The point of the psalm is that the psalmist looks around and he sees people who have wealth and wisdom, at least worldly wisdom, what we might call even common sense, and they've done very well, and they lead what looks like good lives. And the psalmist says, even those people eventually die. I remember somebody saying when I sat in a Sunday school class one day, I thought this was very profound. They said, someday somebody will say your name for the last time. That's really true. Death comes for us all. And this sounds very grim and really sounds like an awful psalm, and you may wonder why I picked it. But again, I do think that it has something profound and powerful to teach. And so we pick it up in verse 16, and we want to see what it teaches. In verse 16 it says this: "So don't be dismayed when the wicked grow rich, and their homes become ever more splendid. For when they die, they take nothing with them. Their wealth will not follow them into the grave. In this life, they consider themselves fortunate and are applauded for their success. But they will die like all before them and never again see the light of day. People who boast of their wealth don't understand. They will die just like animals." That's twice that line's repeated in the psalm. The idea is this: in some sense, the psalmist is trying to give us hope, because he says, look, even those who are successful and wealthy, in the end, we all pass away. We all come to the same end. But how is that helpful? Well, the psalm actually, in a very subtle and important way, points us to Jesus Christ. I want you to notice verse 7. The psalmist says, talking of the wealth and the fact that we all come to death, he says, "Yet they cannot redeem themselves from death by paying ransom to God. Redemption does not come so easily, for no one can ever pay enough to live forever." The psalmist is both right and wrong. right in the sense that no human can ever pay enough ransom to God, that there is not enough that we could offer to God to give eternal life, but wrong in the sense that there is no way to get there. In fact, we know by reading the New Testament that there is a ransom that is paid, that Jesus Christ does pay enough because he is not a mere human, but he is the God-man. So the psalm reminds us that the end for every person is grim, it's death. But very subtly and very quietly there in verses 7, 8, and 9, we notice that there is a way out of this. As the psalmist says, there is no ransom that a man can pay, but there is a ransom someone can pay. The death and resurrection of Jesus Christ was that payment. And because of that, we have hope. And so even as Psalm 49 is very grim, it's not hopeless. And I think that's helpful and a helpful reminder to us. And I know many people struggle with grief and with loss and with lack of sometimes even success in life. But in the end, those things don't matter. What matters is a ransom has been paid, that there is life, eternal life, and it comes through faith and trust in Jesus Christ. So just a reminder from a grim psalm that even though life does have a bad end, it's really not the end for those of us who trust and hope in Jesus Christ. That's our hope. That's what we look for. Thanks for joining us today.